Lobov, who is a very good friend of Conor McGregor, longtime training partner, and of course close friend. Khabib and his Russian crew, of course, Artem being Russian but having loyalty with Conor. I don't know. I don't speak Russian. I saw the video, but I don't speak Russian. I don't know what they said, but obviously they were kind of pissed off with Artem Lobov. So, you know, they kind of cornered him. It didn't get aggressive. It didn't get violent, but they definitely said some words, and Artem was pissed, and the UFC people got in between them. And, you know, there was a lot of people on Artem. Now, I'm a big fan of Khabib, so it's not like I'm trying to throw him under a bus, but there was certainly 10 Russians to 1 there. You know, and Artem Lobov is known as the Russian Hammer, but even still 10-1, I don't fancy those odds. So that was a little bit, you know, bully boy tactics, if I'm honest. That said, you're still allowed to have a word with somebody if you're pissed off, just because there's more than one of you. You know what I'm saying? Just because you have a few people with you doesn't mean you can't say something. So it didn't get violent, but even still, of course, Conor took offense to that.
And there's also something about, like, you know, you guys, I watch you guys, like, kind of hype these fights and sort of kind of what goes behind the scenes. You know, you guys are professional fighters. Everyone is, you know, they're men. And I think there's just something about, like, you know, 2 grown men who are very fully capable of defending themselves, having words. That's sort of part of the fight game, you know? I was online, I was just like, kind of went into like a little journey specifically researching this. And there are certain places in this country where if 2 guys just decide to fight each other, right, they can go out back of a bar. As long as they both are willing parties, they could fight, and it's not against the law. I had no idea. No, absolutely right. Certain states of California, if you both consent to it, and I guess if you're not disturbing the peace or, you know, making a nuisance of yourself, it's totally legal to go outside and settle your differences. And I think
but I like to do that with a few people if only they would consent.
Yeah, but I think there's something about that. It kind of makes it more gentlemanly. It makes it more like you have a certain level of respect, because you go, all right, dude, if I want to fight this guy, it's not about necessarily really hurting this guy and trying to put him in the hospital. It's sort of about kind of getting that steam off. And I think because it's illegal, people do crazy, stupid shit. And I think you're almost like, you force more of dangerous situations sometimes because of that. But with that being said, I almost feel like, you know, what happened with Artem and Khabib's team, it's like it's one thing, and then Conor brings it to a whole other level where he's throwing giant pieces of metal through windows. There's people that aren't fighters that are in this fucking van.
No, for sure. So here's the thing. So he sat there, he sees this video online, and by all accounts, Conor was going to be at the Barclays Center on Saturday night to make an announcement. It was going to be a title fight or whatever the fight was going to be. I'm sworn to secrecy, so I can't say. But he was going to be there. But he sees this video, and he's like, fuck this, boys. Come on, let's get over there. Now, of course, you know, I dare say they were a little intoxicated. In fact, I know for a fact, you can just tell when you look at certain people, you know they're intoxicated. They jumped on a plane, jumped on a private jet, and I dare say, you know, the intoxication continued. There was a lot of whiskey. There was a lot of mob mentality, and they're on the plane, and they're psyching each other up. Now, what they needed really...
Just imagine that plane.
No, I know. They're all on there fucking... Let's go smash each other. Ole. You know, I'm sure that would be the best documentary if they had a cameraman on that plane. That would have been fucking awesome. Could you imagine them at customs, though, when they land in New York, you know, and they're all trying to hold it together? What are you here for? Oh, just a wee bit of business. Just a wee bit of business. We're here for 2-3 days, nothing more. And they're fucking shit-faced, but they've got up a private jet. They're all in tracksuits, looking like fucking Irish sopranos, you know, and trying to hold it together. They get in, and they go immediately to the fucking weigh-ins and go crazy. And as I said, I had forewarning that something was going to happen, but, you know, to run in like that and do that, yeah, it was fucking insane. It was crazy. I'll tell you this, though. I have a dolly at my house. I have a dolly round the side. When we moved from America, the people that moved all my furniture from England to America, they left the dolly in the house. And I use that dolly now and again. This furniture behind me is very, very heavy. Whenever I move that, I use the dolly. That dolly is heavy as fuck. Yeah. The fact that Conor could pick that up and throw that through the air, fair play. I mean, you know, He was definitely charged up. Let's just say that. He was very, very charged. His adrenaline was flowing. You know, you hear about women being able to pick up a car if their baby is underneath it. Well, Conor certainly had some extra help, and he picked up the dolly. And it was a good shot.
Yeah. I've also been pretty charged up in my life as well, Mr. Bisping.
So that was that.
I mean, look, here's the thing. I don't want to.
There were some fisticuffs thrown as well. I'm pretty sure I read online or saw somewhere one of the UFC employees got punched in the face a couple of times.
Really?
And, it was an embarrassing scene, let's be honest. I mean, I'm having a laugh about it now when we're making fun because it happened last week and the dust has settled. But it was embarrassing. It was embarrassing for Conor. Joe Rogan said Saturday night on the UFC that it was pathetic behavior. And if I'm honest, it was. Now, I'm not trying to throw him under a bus. I don't need to throw him under a bus. In fact, to be honest, a lot of people online are still supporting him. They admire the fact he was looking after his friend. I still don't, I can't condone that behavior. As Dana and everybody said over the weekend, the fact that he fights in the UFC, if he wants to fight Artem Lobov, he has the platform to go out there and fight him professionally and make a lot of money and beat the shit out of him if that's what he wanted to do. But they didn't do that, But for me, I mean, listen, I'm not trying to throw him under a bus, and I don't need to because the world is doing that. The world is judging them. I can't say anything. I've made my fair mistakes over the years, never to that extent, but I've certainly done things I regret. But when you look at the situation and you look at Conor McGregor, here's a guy that quite literally has the world at his feet. He's got untold wealth. He's absolutely fucking loaded. He could never work another day in his life, and he'll be able to live a very, very extravagant lifestyle.
Maybe not after this.
Well, maybe not after this. No, I think he's going to be okay. He's been a world champion. Okay, he's super successful in his chosen career. He's got over $100 million. People love him. Rightly or wrongly, everywhere he goes, people love him. He's got a beautiful fiancée at home. He's got a child. He has got every reason to go through this life happy, with a smile on his face, and just lose the chip. That would be my advice. Just lose the fucking chip on the shoulder, man. Yeah. And it's made me realize as well, because I've got a good life. I'm very, very lucky. And I thought about this. You see Conor going out there and doing this. I mean, what the hell are you doing? Why do you behave like that? Look at everything he has going for him. People would literally kill to be in his position. People dream of being in that position. And now he's in that position, he's going out there and acting like that. So he's only letting himself down. And I'm sure when I don't know where he is now. He's probably at home in Dublin. I can only imagine the earache of his girlfriend. I mean, if I went and did that, I'd never hear the end of it. Of course, you got all the haters online, everyone talking shit. He's going to deal with that. He's going to look at that. He's going to see that online. I'm sure when he sees that footage of him walking out the police station in handcuffs, yeah, for sure, this is one of his lowest moments, I would assume. Yeah. I would like to think so also. If it's not, then the guy has a problem. But, Conor's a pretty level-headed guy when it's all said and done. And he's a smart man as well. He is a smart man. I think you don't become as successful as what he is if you haven't got a brain on his shoulder. So, listen, very, very regrettable.
I think that he's 29 years old and he's got $1 bazillion. And when you have that much money, you're that young. 29 in the entertainment industry is like fucking 19 in real life, right? You age. It's a very immature thing. And he's also been very famous and very successful for probably like 5 years now. 4 or 5 years. He's been pretty well known in the UFC.
3 years. 3 years.
Yeah. And he's gone from being but even before that, he's a successful fighter. It's sort of, not saying that fighters are all immature, but if that's what you're doing with your life from the time you're however old he was when he started fighting professionally until now, he's basically a kid, and he hasn't really had an opportunity to truly grow up. And he hasn't really had an opportunity to be responsible for his actions just yet. As a dad, that changes you, obviously, and obviously I think that will change him. And that's really the thing for me, because, dude, I got a fucking temper, and I've done stupid shit, and I've fucking gone on rampages in public and fucking been an idiot. And then you look back, and I was like, God damn it, I have a fucking child at home. I have to, forget even just setting an example, I got to make it home to see him. And what was going on there with Conor and his friends is they're throwing these huge pieces of metal around, and they could have killed somebody. And that's where it's really irresponsible. This is where you go, forget everything else, fuck everything else. It's not just John Jones and Daniel Cormier getting into a scuffle at a weigh-in. This is taking gigantic pieces of metal and putting it through windows. Ray Borg, I don't know, I didn't see the details on exactly what the injury was, But dude, if he went blind, that's his entire fight career, and that's kind of where you go. Like it's another level. I've never seen such disregard for people's safety. And it's not just fighters. Fighters go into this contract of like, Artem Lobov's a big boy. You know what I'm saying? People surround him. He's been there before. He's a fucking tough Russian fighter. You got a fucking UFC intern who's in that bus, who's just some chick who's been 23, who's got a press pass on, and she's fucking terrified for her life.
The problem is, Conor's always been rewarded for acting this way in the past, and that's been part of his appeal, part of his allure. He's very, very unpredictable. Over the years, he's done things like this before. I mean, nothing to this level. But, the water throwing incident, which pales in comparison. Bellator recently jumped into the cage and this and that, and nothing really came of that. He slapped an official, he dived in the cage, nothing came of that. He got away with that. And of course, his nickname is Notorious, but he is notorious now for kind of acting like that. But he's never really had to pay a price for any of it. And every time he just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. So he's almost rewarded for acting that way. As you say, throwing that dolly through the window. I mean, that could have hurt someone. Thankfully, it didn't. Nothing too bad anyway. Michael Chiesa obviously had to withdraw from the fight, so that's a shame. I've heard from a third party that Michael Chiesa is definitely filing a lawsuit against him. So
if Michael Chiesa is smart, he's going to sue Conor. He's going to sue the UFC. He's going to sue the
Barclays Center.
He's going to sue the maker of the dolly, whoever made that fucking dolly, the bus company. He's going to sue the Believe You Me podcast. He's going to sue the city of New York. He's going to sue fucking everybody that he could possibly sue if he has even one brain cell left in his fucking head, because that's the way it works. So let me tell you something, dude. Conor McGregor, believe me, he makes a lot of fucking money, dude, but what he should really be worried about is if somebody like Ray Borg just says, hey, dude, fuck it, I'm going to do the math, and saying I can never fight again is more valuable than the money that I'm going to make in my UFC career from suing him. You might just take that fucking paycheck. I know I would.
I'm just going to play devil's advocate here for a second, though, and just say, of course Ray Borg had pulled out of his fight, and of course I'm sure he is injured. But when you look on the embedded, he had a pair of glasses on. Now, call me stupid, but surely a pair of glasses would shield any glass from getting into your eye.
Dun, dun, dun!
Right? If you look on the embedded, he's standing there. There's nothing wrong with him. He isn't taking his glasses off and going, oh, my God, my eyes, bro, my eyes. He's standing there going, oh, shit, that was actually pretty awesome, with a big pair of fucking glasses on. So,
hey, dude, look, a lot of people think the earth is flat.
A lot of people are fucking morons. The earth is not flat, Lewis. Can we just get that right? Don't tell me you think the earth is flat.
No,
please.
I don't believe in any of these silly conspiracies, and I don't believe that Ray Borg faked an eye injury to get out of his fucking fight. No, not at all.
Neither do I. But I'm just saying, if I was on Team Conor, if I was on his legal team, I'd say, hold on a minute, he had a pair of fucking glasses on. Now, that said, microscopic pieces of glass could fall through the air and come in through the sides. So listen, I'm not making fun of it. I mean, it's a shame for Ray Borg. Rose Namajunas was very upset. She was going to, she was upset. She was crying. She contemplated pulling out the fight for a while. Fortunately, she did it. She had a